Since we moved into our house about 18 months ago, we've had to do a whole variety of different jobs. We've had the chemical damp proofing done. We've reboarded the loft. We had the electrician in for a bit. We're even hoping in a couple of months' time to get the kitchen redone, which please pray for us. That's going to be an interesting challenge with two small ravenous children and no fridge on hand. So that's going to be an interesting one to navigate. But one of the things that we've become very familiar with is tradesmen. We've had lots of different people coming through our house, and one of the things that struck me reading Mark 6 this past week is that when Jesus returned to his hometown in Nazareth, the way that the people who knew him best recognized him was as a carpenter. He was a tradesman. If he was around today, he would be a fairly normal bloke driving around Manchester in his white van, probably listening to Talk Sport. Maybe not. But he's probably working as a joiner on a building site somewhere. And I think most of us find that image of Jesus a bit strange because it's discordant perhaps with how we think of Jesus. Usually we have an image of him wearing a white flowing robe, carrying a lamb, perhaps surrounded by a group of happy children. Not necessarily a manly man, like a tradesman, like a builder. And yet, all of those things that we think about Jesus are, to some degree, assumptions. And they're wrong. When Jesus went to his hometown, they saw the carpenter, the guy who had been in their homes, fixing up different issues, maybe making furniture. Who knows what Jesus' job looked like as he was growing up. We have very limited information on what Jesus was doing before the age of 30. We have a little bit of a glimpse into his early childhood, one story from when he was about 12 years old in Luke chapter 3, and apart from that we don't know. But what we do know here is that he worked as a carpenter, a tradesman. Now, you see, I mention that example because it shines a light into one of the assumptions that we have about Jesus that is wrong and needs to be challenged if we are to know him better. And the interesting thing about the beginning of Mark 6 that we've just read together is that when Jesus returned home, people assumed that they already knew him. And as a result, they missed out. They were prevented from experiencing more of Jesus' grace and his power because of the assumptions that they held. Verse 5 says he could not do any miracles in Nazareth except lay his hands on a few people and heal them. And he was amazed at their lack of faith. Now, Mark is not telling us there that Jesus was somehow incapacitated when he went home to Nazareth. He lost his power. He was unable to do healings. In fact, quite clearly, he does heal a handful of people who come to him. No, Jesus is not incapacitated in Nazareth. He's overlooked. People don't take him seriously. When he claims to be the Son of God, when he stands up in the synagogue and reveals to them the traits of the Messiah, when they hear the stories that he has been healing and casting out impure spirits, they dismiss it. They dismiss him. They assume that they already know him. He's the carpenter. He's Mary's son. His brothers and sisters still live here. Do we really think that this man who we know so well, so they thought, can really be the Messiah, God's son? You know, I wonder what assumptions we hold about Jesus that are preventing us from knowing him better. I want us to talk about that in our groups tonight. I want us to question our assumptions together, help one another to question our assumptions, because sometimes it can be hard to see the things that we're assuming. And then explore together what it might look like for each of us to know Jesus better and experience more of his power, his grace, his love, his mercy in our lives. Hope you have a great time in your groups tonight, and I look forward to seeing you on Sunday.